number one insider is here, and our front office insider is here. We are locked and loaded. Welcome to Sports Center, and welcome to, maybe in a matter of hours, a brand new league. With Michael Eaves, I'm Zubin Mehenti. Yesterday was one of the busiest travel days in American history, according to the TSA. And today, we had our eyes on one flight mic in particular.
Yeah, Zubin, you know we are in full LeBron watch mode when we're using flight trackers, but that's where we are right now. But that's also how we know that LeBron is currently hanging out in Los Angeles after this private jet carried him from the Caribbean, where he's vacationing with his family, to Los Angeles, landing at Van Nuys Airport in the valley just north of the city. Of course, LeBron and the Lakers have been tied together in terms of rumors and speculation over the last several days, last several weeks. But he does have two homes in the area as well, and he spent several summers in the past hanging out in Los Angeles. But the entire city of LA, especially Laker Nation more specifically, really tied into LeBron's arrival with the impending free agency period starting a little bit later tonight, less than 7 hours. So to get a little deeper into this, of course, we bring in NBA senior insider Adrian Wojnarowski. We know that he's in LA right now. What else do we know about LeBron and his plans?
We don't know dinner plans. We don't know what he's got on tap tonight. But, you know, at midnight, the Lakers can contact LeBron James. They can start having a conversation with him. They can set up a meeting. Now, the NBA rules dictate that you can't do that before midnight.
Right.
It happens all the time in the league, but I think the Lakers are trying to put a premium because of the tampering fine they got earlier this year. They're kind of on double secret probation, so I think they can wait and then be able to start a conversation with him once they get to 901 on the West Coast.
Right. We often hear teams meeting around 901, 902, but again, according to the league rules, they have to first make contact before they can set up anything. We'll see if the Lakers are indeed the first team to get in front of LeBron. But let's talk about another person that we've heard a lot of speculation about lately, and that is Kawhi Leonard and the trade situation with the Spurs. As you've been reporting, several teams have been coming at the Spurs with deals, but nothing's been done as of yet. Where does it stand right now?
Yeah, I think there's really some cautiousness with all the teams in these talks. No one is falling over themselves offering San Antonio everything the Spurs want. Boston and Philadelphia have been talking with the Spurs. There's nothing imminent or close there. And the Lakers, they've gone, they haven't had as much regular dialogue with LA. The Lakers have not shown necessarily urgency that some thought they might as they were ramping up here to LeBron James's free agency, Paul George. That doesn't mean that the Lakers won't get more aggressive here, but so far they've played it fairly cool. They haven't offered all the young players and assets, future picks that it would take for the Spurs to move quickly and do a deal. And right now, San Antonio knows we can play this out. Yeah. We can offer him that $219 million Supermax contract and make him turn it down.
Yeah, again, of course, the speculation was the Lakers wanted to get two players clearly, and maybe LeBron wanted to wait and see who the Lakers were going to get before he decided where he was going to go, whether it was LA or not. So Woj sticking around is going to be with us a little bit later here on Sports, and plenty more to dive into as it relates to free agency. Right now, I'll send it over to Zubin.
Michael, thank you very much. Adrian, thank you very much. Just hit on parts 1 and 2 about the Lakers' dream trifecta. But part 3, Paul George scheduled to become a free agent at 12:01 a.m. Eastern after declining his team option with OKC. Of course, could always remain there, but linking him to the Lakers was prevalent even when he played for the Indiana Pacers. So we're going to be in a situation here where we'll be watching this as well. Our Royce Young has watched every game he's played in the Thunder uniform, could be past tense at this point. So what's the latest from OKC's side of things here on the Paul George front?
Yeah, Zubin, they still feel like they're in a great position. You know, free agency is about to open. It opens, like you guys said, 12:01. And the Thunder, they've tried to use kind of their advantageous position to continue to recruit Paul George, because that's the reason that they made the trade a year ago today. They made the trade stunning everybody, sending Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis to the Pacers for Paul George, is so that they could essentially take 12 months to begin selling Paul George. They knew that they were not going to get a seat at the table with him, and this was their opportunity to do so. So they've been in communication with Paul George and his representation. They understand that free agency is about to open. They like the position they're in. And if anything, Zubin, what they really like is that they're in the conversation, because there was no guarantees of that when they made this deal a year ago, that they even would have that seat at the table. But they are legitimately in the conversation for Paul George. And for the Thunder, that makes them feel pretty good.
Okay, got to mention, though, that this is kind of deja vu for the Thunder because they've been here before. It was only a couple of years ago, I remember talking to you, that the Thunder was confident they'd be able to re-sign Kevin Durant. We obviously know how that turned out. So what makes Sam Presti, their general manager, think this situation is going to be any different, Royce?
Well, first of all, Zubin, how can you really bring yourself to think the other way? I mean, you don't want to go down that negative path. But, I think for the Thunder, what the way that they kind of view this is, these are two different situations. These are two different human beings. These are two different personalities. Yes, they both play small forward in the NBA. They're both all-star caliber players. They're both max level guys that you want to re-sign, that said positive things about your franchise and you hope to keep them. But the Thunder are trying to distance those two situations from each other. They thought they were going to keep Kevin Durant. They thought they were in a great position to do it. But one thing that I've been reminded a lot over the last few months about the Thunder is a lot of people kind of make that comparison that Kevin Durant left, so therefore this situation feels similar. I'll remind you that the last max player that the Thunder had up for virtually free agency didn't just re-sign once, he re-signed twice, and that's Russell Westbrook. So the Thunder do have a recent track record of being able to keep a star, not only any star, but a kid that grew up in Southern California.
No question about it. One more for you before I let you go, and this really revolves around, Presti's done some amazing things with drafting players, but if they get the rental on Paul George and it doesn't become long-term, and obviously the Carmelo situation didn't turn out the way that they wanted to, where does the organization sit knowing they went all in on those pieces and really could lose Paul George and have really gotten nothing from Carmelo?
Yeah, it's a huge risk that they've embarked on, Zubin, and they understand that. They were putting a lot on the line here, and they felt like that they had to do it. And they're going to be in a position, if Paul George does leave in free agency, they're going to have a team with Carmelo Anthony, Russell Westbrook, a ton of salary committed to this roster. They'll be over the cap. And really, in some ways, Zubin, it's worse than Kevin Durant leaving because Kevin Durant walked away for nothing. Paul George not only will walk away for nothing, but he cost the Thunder 2 players as well because they had to trade to get him. So the Thunder will be in a difficult position. And at that point, they'll have an even cloudier future. They'll have to start asking themselves even more difficult questions about what do you do with the future of Russell Westbrook? Do you try to retool again, even with fewer assets than you had before? Or do you finally just pull the plug and decide to go for the full rebuild? That will be the conversation the Thunder will begin to have. But again, they don't want to go down that negative path quite yet. They want to keep thinking positively like they're going to get it done.
No question about it. And I think if there is any general manager in the league that's gotten the benefit of the doubt over the last few years, who's been able to turn something into nothing or nothing into something, depending on how you look at it. One is Daryl Morey, and definitely the other is Sam Presti. That's our Royce Young, who'll be counting down to midnight, just like the rest of us, and Thunder Nation. Great to have him with us. Okay, so we had our NBA front office insider, Bobby Marks, here. 20 years in NBA front offices. You know what the pressure is like on a day like this. We just talked to Royce. First priority is to get PG-13 back, but they were eliminated in the first round. So you tell me, financially speaking, how does this all work considering all the money they got tied up in him and the money he could get if he wants it?
Well, this is going to be an expensive team to keep together. And we saw last week the Carmelo Anthony option, $28 million, opted into his contract. Where Oklahoma City right now is, they're at $119 million. The luxury tax is $123 million. So this is before we even add Paul George. There is no tax bill right now. This team is in the repeater tax 4 out of the past 5 years. They will be in the luxury tax. And when we add Paul George over, look at where that number goes.
Wow.
That is a $93 million tax bill. That's what Paul George, on top of his salary, that's $120 million just to bring in Paul George. That's just for this year. Oklahoma City knew that going into last year when they made the trade, when they traded out Victor Oladipo. That's the cost to bring back Paul George. And how do you get better? How do you improve this roster? And one player to take a focus on is Jeremy Grant.
Had a nice season, right?
He did. And let's put him in at $9 million. Look at where that goes. That went from $92 million to $137. That's $40 million plus, just for Jeremy Grant. And when you add it up, $157 million in salary, $138 million in luxury tax, and we haven't even filled out some of your minimums yet. So that we're on pace to possibly see the first $300 million team in NBA history. But Oklahoma City knew this when they did the Carmelo trade, when they did the Paul George trade, how expensive this team was going to be.
And keep in mind, as you take a look at those two figures here, the projected salary cap is $101 million. So there they are at 157, then the tax. The big story around this entire offseason, as Bobby knows, is there's a ton of teams